Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha. He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopecha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priya Vanchakalpatarubhyasya Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Shri Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayana Namaskrityam Naranchaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jaya Mudire Shrinavatam Swakatha Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtanam Ridyantasva Bhadrani Vidunoti Suritsatam Nashta Prayasho Vadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishiki. Sarva Shastradi Piyusha, Sarva Vedika Satpala, Sarva Siddhanta Ratnadhya, Sarva Lokaika Dikpada, Sarva Bhagavata Prana, Srimad Bhagavato Prabhu, Kalidanto Tidaditya, Shri Krishna Parivartita, Paramananda Pathaya, Prema Varsha Aksharaya, Te Sarvada Sarva Sevaya, Shri Krishnaya Namostute, Mad Ekabandhu Mad Sangin, Mad Gurun Mad Mahadana, Mad Nishtaraka Mad Bhagya, Mad Ananda Namostute, Asadu Sadhu Tadain Atinicha Takara, Hana Muncha Kadachin Mam Premna Ritkantayosvaraha. Grantarashram Bhagavatam Ki Jai, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Hare Krishna everyone. So thank you for joining. So we'll continue, and today, as I mentioned, we'll do a shorter class. It'll just be up to 8 a.m. since we have our visiting guest. His own is Haldar Swami Maharaj, and his class starts 8:30ish. So just 1 hour class. So let's focus. So a quick overview of where we are in our section of Bhagavatam. We are in 4th canto, chapter number 23. The chapter is titled Maharaj Prithu is going back home, back to Godhead. And what we discussed up to text 17 and 18. We just quickly read. I think we have to discuss a little bit more on that. Towards the end, I think 17, 18 also we read. So we'll just discuss. I'll just summarize up to 16. We'll again read 17, 18, and we'll continue. Okay. So basically, we in this chapter we see that how when Prithu he actually realized that yes, old age is coming. He actually decided, okay, now is the time. I need to leave everything. He handed over this entire kingdom he was ruling to his sons, and he went to the forest to perform austerities. And then we read how the citizens were actually feeling so much lamentation from him, and he actually left alone, but with his wife. Right? We discussed that point, that how husband and wife, though he left alone, the word alone was used, but actually it was with his wife, because in the stage of Vanaprastha, husband and wife can be together. Right? And then further we read about Prithu Maharaj's austerities, how he performed so many different austerities. Like when it was hot, he surrounded himself by 5 kinds of fires, and when it was cold, he actually submerged himself in cold water up to the neck. So he performed very severe austerities, but all those austerities, there was only one goal. What was that goal? He wanted to please Krishna through the austerities. So, if it is austerities, if we perform austerities which are not connected to Krishna, then those austerities can make us hard-hearted. But here, his whole point is, I'm performing these austerities for the pleasure of Krishna. Right? So that was his key point, only to satisfy Krishna. And then we discussed this point, that if you're doing austerities and that's not giving you Krishna Bhakti, what is the use of austerities? And if you're doing austerities, anyway, we discussed that verse, right? About how Prabhupada quotes the verse about austerities. And if your austerities are not leading to devotion to Krishna, then what is the use of austerities? Right? And then and the point was actually made, if your austerities are leading to Krishna, then, why do you have to do austerities? Because anyway, no, I forget what's the sequence of those. But anyway, you know the verse we discussed last time about that verse that Prabhupada quotes. But the whole point here is that austerities, he did it only to satisfy Krishna. Right? And then further we read how he gives up his subtle body, his gross body, right? So that was the point, and we that was let me 1 minute, just pull up my notes. So yes, so in text 7 we basically discuss how Prithu Maharaj is described particularly that he did all this just to worship Krishna. So yes, the verse I was thinking of is Aradhito yadi hari tapasa tatha kim. If you are worshipping the Lord properly, what is the use of austerities? And if one is not properly worshipping the Lord, what is the use of austerities? Right? So that's the point. And then and Prabhupada actually makes the point that how Krishna conscious movement is safe and easy, and all we need to do is follow the order of the Guru, preach Krishna consciousness, follow in the path of Vaishnavas, and then Prabhupada says everything will be all right. Right? So that phrase of everything will be all right was that. And then we read about how Prithu, he actually performed pranayam, and so in texts like he controlled his mind and senses with pranayam and cut his bondage to the world, and then he constantly worshipped the Lord by following the path of Adhyatma Yoga. And this Adhyatma Yoga is basically the Bhakti Yoga that the Sanat Kumar had actually mentioned in the previous chapter. Right? And then further we came to a point from text 11 about how Prithu destroys his subtle body. And very interesting concept that we read this, that how Prithu Maharaj was very eager to actually go back home, back to Godhead. So bhakti itself destroys the subtle body, and then we give the example of how if there's fire of digestion, then just by eating food it'll get digested. But if you actually add some kind of food digestion, like we call hajmala or something like that, then it actually enhances the digestion of food. Right? So similarly, bhakti itself has the potency to destroy subtle body, gross body, take us home back to Godhead. But because Prithu Maharaj was in a hurry, he said, I cannot wait to see Krishna. I cannot wait to be back in Vaikuntha. Hence, he actually used, the methods of Jnana Yoga, and then he rejected Jnana Yoga. He used Astanga Yoga, and he rejected Astanga Yoga. And actually, so he's just using these to actually further his, to make this process go faster, basically. Right? So that was basically the main point that we read. Right? And we read how Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, Prabhupada also gave the example of strong digestive power. There is no need of churna, right? Yeah. And then further we read, so in text 13 to 18, we describe how he gave up his gross body. So he gave up his subtle body, where he actually is using the concept of Jnana Yoga, right? And then he's rejecting the concept of Jnana. Then he actually is giving up the gross body. And how does he do that? He uses the principles of Astanga Yoga, where we read about the Muktasana, right? Where there's Muladhara Chakra, Swadhisthana Chakra, and then he's actually moving the life airs to the higher, to the between the between the eyebrows at Agya Chakra, right? So he's actually using all these yogic techniques, right? And then it's described. So once the life air was here between the eyebrows, he merged the air in the body with the totality of air, and he merged the remaining 4 elements with the totality of the other elements. So the key point here is that Prabhupada says that how in the Canto 2 and Canto 3 we actually read about the process of creation, right? Read about the process of creation, that how it comes from Pradhan, Mahatattva, and if you all remember those charts. And now Prabhupada is saying it's good we read that, and it's important to read that, because now we can go actually reverse engineering. Right? Reverse engineering. That point was actually said that now we are going back. We are merging the elements of the body into the sense objects, and then into higher, and then into Mahat Tattva, and then finally we are, that way merging all the elements back into the totality of the material element. So if you see in text 15 and 16, it says, so let's see, so text 15 basically says, in this way Prithu Maharaj gradually raised his uh, of air of life up to the hole in the skull, and then he lost all desire for material existence, and then he gradually merged the air of life with the totality of air, his body with the totality of earth, fire within the body with totality of fire. And this continues in the next verse where he says, and then he merged the wholes of the senses with the sky, the bodily liquids with the totality of water. Then after this, then he merged earth with water, right? So if you remember the sequence, it was also like earth, water, air, fire, ether, right? Opposite way. So it started with ether, and then we got, now he's doing the opposite. So he's merging the earth with water, water with fire, fire with air, air with ether, right? So that merging is actually happening, right? And then in 17, then he amalgamated. So once he has got all the gross, now he's thinking of the mind. So he amalgamated the mind with the senses with sense objects, right? And then he amalgamated the material ego with total material energy, the Mahatattva, right? So we're coming all the way at the starting of the creation, Pradhan Mahatattva, and all this, right? So all that reverse engineering is happening. And then, so text 18, basically here, let me see. Right. So, Prabhupada in the purport of 17, he makes the point that having described the destruction of the elements produced of ahankar in tamas, now destruction of the products of ahankar in sattva and rajas are described. Right? So we talked about all those in ahankar, right? If you remember the chart, there was ahankar, and then in tamas we had all these. Now the elements which are produced by ahankar in sattva and raja, those are now described, right? And that's the mind into sense objects, right? Along with the sense devatas, they merge the senses with their devatas into tanmatras, then merge the tanmatras into ahankar, merge ahankar into mahatattva, right? So it is very systematic. If you can picturize the whole chart that Gauranga Darshan Prabhu has in Subodhini of creation, you can really connect with these verses and see, oh, what is happening? Okay, this was one Gyan, it was Gyan, Kriya, right? Or the three elements. So he's saying, okay, one element is taking, merging back into that, and then second, then third, and then going higher, coming all the way to Mahatattva. Right? So Prabhupada actually explains in the purport that creation is so arranged that there's cause and effect follows one after another. Right? So merging process involves amalgamating the effect with the original. So initially it was cause, effect, Now it's actually amalgamating the effect with the original cause, and then going all the way to Mahatattva. Right? And okay. And here Prabhupada actually in the purport of 17, he makes a point that for us, how can we achieve all this? And he focuses on the point, Cheto Darpana Marjanam. When the mind is completely washed of all material contamination, the pure consciousness acts. The sound vibration from the spiritual sky can automatically cleanse all material contamination. So do we have to be worried about like how this reverse engineering, how we will be doing, how should we do it? And Prabhupada is giving assurance. For us, we just follow Mahaprabhu. And Mahaprabhu's formula is Cheto Darpana Marjanam. How? By Sri Param Vajayate Sri Krishna Sankirtana. So just by chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, right? So that is the key point. So Prabhupada is stressing on this. For us, as confirmed by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, we need only take the advice of Mahaprabhu. So all this complicated creation is there, and the reverse engineering, all that is there. But here Prabhupada is saying, we need only take the advice of Mahaprabhu and chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. This will cleanse our mind of all material contamination, and this may be considered the summary of this difficult verse. So up to this point you were thinking, oh, this is so difficult. How did Prithu do? How will I follow this? Then Prabhupada is giving us assurance that this may be considered a summary of the difficult verse. What is that? Chanting Hare Krishna, and by that Cheto Darpana Marjana. So the best course is to adopt the ways and means of Mahaprabhu, Sri Krishna Sankirtanam. And then Prabhupada quotes the entire Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Right? So just as the material world begins with sound, right? Similarly, spiritual life has its beginning in sound. Right? It's all about the sound. That's why we say Hare Nam Eva Kevalam. Just chanting Hare Krishna, that conviction, that faith, that just by chanting Hare Krishna, we can attain all perfection. We don't need to be dependent on any other process. Just chant Hare Krishna, and when we are chanting Hare Krishna, following the instructions of the spiritual master, the mercy that descends onto us, that mercy will guide us how we can go back home, back to God. So having that complete faith in the chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, and then just depending on the mercy, when will that mercy come? And the mercy will be our direction, and the mercy will tell us, okay, what we need to do to go back home, back to God. We don't need to be dependent on all these other processes. Right? So very, very nicely Prabhupada explains that key point. And in 18, he says, Prithu Maharaj then offered the total designation of the living entity unto the supreme controller of illusionary energy, being released from all the designations. So here we say bhakti means what? To give up all the upadhis. Right? Upadhi, the definition of bhakti is what? Sarvopadi vinirmuktam. Right? Upadhi we are giving up. So here, being released from all those upadhis, right, by which the living entity became entrapped, he became free from knowledge and renunciation, and by the spiritual force of his devotional service. Right? In this way, being situated in original constitutional position. So the key point in text number 18 is giving up all our false identities, false ego. Everything has been done. How has been done? By the spiritual force of bhakti. Right? So that's again the same point, that everything by devotional service, everything will be achieved. By the power of devotional service, all these false identities all will be given up, and then we will come to our original Swarup. Right? And that's again the power of the holy name, that how when devotees used to approach Srila Gaur Kishore Dasji Babaji Maharaj about what is my Siddha Pranali mantra. Right? So Siddha Pranali means it's a mantra that will reveal your spiritual form in the spiritual world. Right? What is your Swarup? And then Gaur Kishore Babaji Maharaj used to just say, okay, come, I'll tell you in your ear. And he used to go in the ear and say, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Right? So people are eager that, oh, what is my spiritual form? I need to know this. But our whole process is chant the Hare Krishna mantra. Everything will be revealed to you at the right time. At the right time. We don't need to be like impatient that, oh, I'm chanting for 10 years, still I don't know my spiritual form, and run here and run there. No, develop your faith in the holy name, and then everything will be revealed to us at the right time. The spiritual master will come and reveal everything. All we need to do is have full faith in the chanting of the holy name. Right? So again here, the same point. By the spiritual force of this bhakti, of the chanting of holy name, the original constitutional position of every living entity in Krishna consciousness, that will be revealed. Right? And then here it also says, very interesting, he gave up his body as a Prabhu. Now we say our position is Das, right? We say, in spiritual name we say Das. Why does it say, Prithu said, he gave up his body as a Prabhu? Prabhu one way means master. Now why is he called the master here? Because now he's controlled all the senses, all the elements. He's conquered everything, all the material energy by this process of merging everything back. He's conquered everything, and now he's qualified to enter back into the Vaikuntha. So one way, Prithu Maharaj is a pure devotee, right? So he does not have to go through all this, but he's just showing us the right example, and he's setting the example for us, the journey back home, back to Godhead, right? So in purport, let's see. Okay, in text 18 it says. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur actually says that when it says here, offer the total designation, here it says it placed all the. So if you see from Pradhan to Mahatattva, what is the difference between Pradhan and Mahatattva? Anyone remembers? there's one key point in the creation. There's Pradhan, and then something happens, and then Mahatattva. Think. Anyone? Everyone remembers the creation, right? The chart we discussed twice, Bhagavatam 2.5 and Bhagavatam 3.5. So, what's the difference between Pradhan and Mahatattva? I think it was one of the questions also on the exam. Okay, so
Plans.
what, Prabhu?
Mahatattva and Pradhan, there's a difference. One is separate ingredients, and then the other one is like mixed with with the glance of mm,
Okay, glance. Okay. So yes, glance is certainly there, Prabhu. I think that's a good point. The glance is there, and but there's one main point, and I think you kind of touched upon it. That yes, Vijay Radhikamanti?
Manifested and unmanifested.
Yes, so Pradhan is sum total of all the material elements together, and glance is anyway there. Because of glance, everything is happening. Because of that, the three modes of material nature which are inactive in Pradhan, they start to get active, and that's what Mahatattva comes. So the main point is the modes of material nature, they start to get active. So everything together along with the modes in the unmixed state is Pradhan. But as soon as, due to the influence of glance and also another energy is time, both of these, right? Glance and time. Because of these, then the modes start getting active, and that's how Mahatattva comes, right? So here, why am I making the point? Because here, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says in text 18, the point we have come all the way to Mahatattva up to 17. What is left? The gunas. So the three modes of material nature. So he placed the shelter of the three gunas, in Maya, right? And therefore, so that's the last point. The gunas also that's actually placed, right? Right. So reservoir of all qualities. So that qualities, that designation is basically a quality, is the three modes of material nature, unto the reservoir of all potencies, the Maya Shakti, right? And then further he says, being free from designation, being situated in self-realization, Asu Anushtaya Puman Jnana Vairagya. He became free by knowledge, renunciation, and Viryena is the Sanskrit word there, by the progress of bhakti. By the progress of bhakti. So that's the key point. All we need to do is bhakti. By the power of bhakti, that is Viryena, we can attain perfection. And then he says, Swarupastha. He became situated in original Swarupa, Ajahat Prabhu. And therefore he returned home as a Prabhu. He's capable of giving up all these coverings of gross, subtle body, Mahatattva. All these he's able to give up. And now he's attained back home, back to Godhead. So, right, so Prabhupada in the purpose says the Supreme Personality of God is source of materiality. Consequently, he's sometimes called Maya Maya. Maya Maya means he is the one who is the source of Maya. Right? So that's why here it says he actually merged the gunas into Maya. Right? So that point. So Prabhupada explained the Lord is also called Maya Maya. Right? The source of Maya. Right? Then, right. Right. Then also this word Prabhu, Prabhupada actually explains that we call, we address other devotees as Prabhu. Right? So Prabhu means what? Completely self-realized. And here Prabhupada says, he became a Prabhu or master of sentence, sometimes also called Goswami or Swami. This means that he was no longer controlled by the influence of material energy, right? So one who has control over the pullings of Maya, that person is a Prabhu. Right? And then Prabhupada further says, Yeah, he says Prabhupada, he talks of Prabhupada. He says the spiritual master addresses Prabhupada because he is a completely realized soul, self-realized soul. The word Pad means position, and Prabhupada indicates that he is given the position of Prabhu. Right? So Pad is like how we say Pad, like someone who is it means a Pad means like also it can mean like lotus feet, but Pad also means position. So Prabhupada means one who has the position of being a Prabhu. And here Prabhu means a controller or master of the senses. Therefore Prabhupada. Right? So unless one is a Prabhu or controller of senses, he cannot be Prabhupada, like spiritual master. Right? And here Prabhupada actually goes Shakshat Dharitena Samasta Shastra. All the Shastras actually make the point that Uktasa Tathabha Yata Eva Sadbir. So Sakshat Dharitena Hari. Right, the spiritual master is the most confidential servitor of Hari. Right? Okay, right. So that's a few points there. Right? And also, Prabhupada talks of it. Swarupa Upa Sarupopalabdhi. Right? Sarupopalabdhi. That is our original pure spiritual position. Right? So that's what the stage or Sarupastha, right? Attaining the stage of our original Sarup. Right? So Prithu Maharaj realized his original Sarup in Vaikuntha. Right? So all that is happening in text number 18. So 18 is conquering all the three modes of material nature and realizing one's Swarupa is in this explained in text number 18. Okay. So that completes Prithu Maharaj going back home, back to Godhead. Okay. So let's see if anyone has any questions. It is technical for sure, but it's an important section, understanding. Like the whole Bhagavatam is giving us examples of people that we can follow. Right? Mahajano Yena Gatha Sapanta. We follow in the footsteps of devotees. We learn from Prithu Maharaj. We learn how he actually living his life and how he is leaving his body. Right? And so we have perfect examples to follow. Right? Okay. Any questions? Like, do you get an idea of how Prithu gave up his gross body, subtle body, right? How he's using jnana, yoga, and then rejecting that only because he's so eager to go back home, back to Godhead? Any questions?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Yes.
I have a question. Has anyone in recent past attained this kind of, like Prithu Maharaj, like giving up the body? Any references?
Like recent? What do you like recently? You mean like in our current?
In this Kali Yuga?
Prabhupada is giving us the highest thing, right? For us, Prabhupada is actually like how he left his, his Vapu in the Vrindavan Dham. He's setting the perfect example. Normally when old age comes, then the memory goes weak, and then we start to forget things. We cannot speak clearly. But see Prabhupada as an example. How he left his body. Even at the last few days, Prabhupada, what is he doing? On his dictaphone, he's recording the commentaries of the 10th canto, 13th chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam. So for us, Prabhupada, so many disciples, like that famous video of like His Holiness Gopal Krishna Goswami Maharaj, even in his sleep, he's doing arti of the deities. These personalities are our examples of going back home, back to Godhead. And we are so fortunate to be connected with Srila Prabhupada, his disciples, and all we need to do is stay on this path, just follow in their footsteps, and then we'll go back home, back to Godhead. That is the power of what we are connected to, this glorious parampara. Is that your question, Mataji?
Thank you, Prabhuji. My question is actually like, did anybody do this, like natural death versus, like forcing all the, like the steps that was described in this one?
Okay, like someone who's so eager that did he use Gyan and yoga as such?
Yes,
Yeah. I mean, one thing is, see, Bhagavatam is describing about Prithu, how he was so eager, how he did it. You know. Now, devotees in general, they are so humble. Like even here, we say like we saw in one of the purpose that Prabhupada said, Prithu is a pure devotee, but because he's so humble, he's using these techniques to show us an example. So even if devotees, out of eagerness, have somehow, sped up the process, like want to do it quickly, have done that, still they may not reveal it to us. So we will not know. Because the devotees are so humble, they'll be like, oh, I'm so unqualified to go back to God. And so even if they have used this, we will not know. But, I think our main point is we should focus on the purport of 17, where Prabhupada says, for us, we just need to follow Mahaprabhu's footsteps. So we don't need to be, too much concerned with like, oh, do I need to learn this so that even I can prepare? And Prabhupada clearly said, we need only take the advice of Mahaprabhu. And does Mahaprabhu talk about, taking jnana and yoga and learning all this? No. Mahaprabhu's only formula, chant Hare Krishna Mahamantra. That's the main thing. Preach Krishna consciousness. Therefore, Prabhupada, in the purport to text 7, he said, everything will be all right. What we need to do? Follow the order of Guru, right? Prabhupada's disciples. Then chant Hare Krishna Mahamantra, preach Krishna consciousness, and that's it. Everything will be perfect. We'll go back to God. So even if someone has actually used certain of these techniques, we will not know. But in general, Kali Yuga, Hare Nameva Kevalam. Hare Nameva Kevalam. So, is that okay, Mataji?
No, thank you, Prabhuji.
Yeah. Okay. So, any other questions on this Prithu going back to God? Is it clear? This, it's technical, but it's really nice. Understanding creation and then going back, reverse engineering. Okay, so we'll continue. The next few verses talks of Archie. So because Prithu and Archie, they came together to the forest. So we read all about Prithu doing austerities, right? What about Archie? What is she doing while Prithu was doing all these austerities, and what is her destination, right? So those are the next few verses. So text 19.
Archirnama Maharajni Tatpatnyanugatavanam Sukumarya Tat Arhacha Yat Padbhyam Sparshanam Bhuvaha.
Okay, just see the list. Who is to read first? Varsana Priya Mati, are you able to read? Okay, Gagandeep Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Translation. The queen, the wife of Prithu Maharaj, whose name was Archie, followed her husband into the forest. Since she was a queen, her body was very delicate. Although she did not deserve to live in the forest, she voluntarily touched her lotus feet to the ground. Hare Krishna.
So here is basically saying Archie. So Archie Nama, her name was the name Archie Maharagni. She was a great queen. Prithu was the emperor, so she was certainly the queen for Prithu, right? And what did she do? The whole question is, she followed Prithu to the forest. What did she do? Anugata. Anugata means followed her husband. Vanam, in the forest. Sukumari. She was a queen. She was staying in the palace. She was such a delicate, but she followed the austerities of Prithu. And here in purport, Prabhupada says that how she followed Prithu Maharaj during the ruling. Similarly, while Prithu was doing austerities, she followed Prithu in the same way. In every stage of life, the chaste wife follows her husband. Right? So when the husband is a king, then she is as a queen. When he goes to forest, she follows all, despite having to tolerate all kinds of difficulties in living in the forest, all those austerities, she actually followed everything, even though she had a delicate body. So Prabhupada in the purport also gave the example that he makes a point like, how queens, as such, they don't even touch the ground, right? In the sense like this verse says that yet padbhyam, by touch of those lotus feet, sparsham bhuva, earth. So she touched the feet of the ground. Normally queens, they were carried in palanquin one place to another. They never touched the earth. But now, to make the point that how she came down to the level, to the performing austerities like following Prithu, it says she touched the earth and she performed all the austerities, right? Accepted all the difficulties. And Prabhupada in the purport also gives hundreds of similar examples. And he gives the example of Mother Sita, right? Ramayana, famous, like Sita wasn't banished to the forest. She didn't have to go, but she actually accepted it voluntary just to serve, be with Ramchandra. Then another example Prabhupada gives is Gandhari, who actually, Gandhari didn't have to put that cloth and make herself blind, like she could have just said, like, if I have eyes, I can serve my husband better, right? But she was like, no, if I have eyes with my vision, then I will think that I'm superior to my husband, and then maybe that will be an hindrance for me to serve. And then voluntarily she covered the wife. So all these examples of great personalities, wives of great personalities, is there in the Srimad Bhagavatam. So Archie is another glorious example of how a wife followed her husband in the austerities. Okay, text 20.
Ativa bhartur vratadharmanishtaya Shushrushraya charshadeha yatraya Navindataaritim parikarshitapi sa Preyaskara sparshanamana nirvritihi.
Although she was not accustomed to such difficulties, Queen Archie followed her husband in the regulative principles of living in the forest like great sages. She lay down on the ground and ate only fruits, flowers, and leaves. And because she was not fit for these activities, she became frail and thin. Yet because of the pleasure she derived in serving her husband, she did not feel any difficulties.
So one very nice point here. So basically it says what? Vrata dharma. Vrata means vow. She took a vow for what? To serve Prithu even in the forest with determination. That was her vow. That I am in the forest, it's going to be difficult, lots of austerities, but I will continue my service. And then by serving, also it says Shushrushraya. Shushrushraya means serving. Arsha Deha Yatra. And she started living like how sages live in the forest, right? Na avinnanti artam. But she did not. So although she became parikavita api, she became lean, she became thin, still she did not perceive any difficulty. Why? It's a very nice point. Preya kara, if you see our last line, Preya kara sparshana mana nirvriti. Because she derived pleasure from serving her husband, she did not feel any difficulties. So this is the main point, that that yes, she was taking up all these difficulties, but was that like, oh, this difficulty, why am I doing this? Why should I do this? No. Voluntarily, with that vow that I will serve my husband, and by serving her husband, that pleasure that she was getting, then because of that, even though the situation was austere, she did not feel that difficulties. So even in bhakti also is the same point, that we may perform austerity in devotional service, but our austerity, the mood of austerity is to please the Guru. And when we try to please Vaishnava's Guru Krishna, when we try to please them, then by their reciprocation, the pleasure we get, then we feel this austerity is actually not so difficult. Right? Even though it is, it is austere, but still the pleasure is actually worth it. Right? For this pleasure, it is worth it. Right? So Prabhupada in the purport says, he says, Bhartur Vrita Dharma Nishtaya. The duty of a wife is to serve her husband in all conditions. And then Prabhupada makes a point that both woman and man should be trained how to live a life dedicated to spiritual practices. This often this point, or many times people ask, okay, sometimes the husband is not practicing Krishna consciousness, but the wife is serious in Krishna consciousness, and what to do. And here Prabhupada is always making the point, yes, should the wife still continue to serve the husband if the husband is a meat eater? All those questions come up. Here Prabhupada says, ideally, what is the perfect thing? Both husband and wife should realize the importance of spiritual life. And from the starting of life, both of them should be trained how to live a life focusing on our main goal, going back to Godhead. If that is there, then the chaste wife's duty, she follows her husband in all respects, knowing that the husband is also trying to go back home, back to Godhead, and the wife is assisting the husband in going back home, back to Godhead. Right? Prabhupada here also quotes Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and he says like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he took sannyas, right? At the time, Vishnu Priya Devi was only 16 years old. But see what austerities she performed? Her austerities was, she used to have like rice, grains of rice next to her. She used to chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, and chant one round of Hare Krishna Mahamantra. And after finishing one round, she used to take one grain of rice and move it on the other side. And the number of rounds she chanted, those are the number of grains she collected, she cooked that and ate that. That was her level of austerity. So Prabhupada is just giving different examples of how, in the latter part of their lives, how women have performed such great austerities. So, okay. Yes, okay. So the next verse. So this point about enjoying, she was enjoying honor of serving her grace. My husband is so glorious. He's going back home, going back to God. So by serving him, she was getting so much pleasure that even though all the austerities were there, she was not experiencing those difficulties. Text 21.
Deham vipanna kila chetanadikam patyu prithivya dayitasya chatmanaha alaksha kinchit chavilapya sasati chitamataro payad adrisanuni.
Translation Srila Prabhupada ki jai. When Queen Archie saw that her husband, who had been so merciful to her and the earth, no longer showed symptoms of life, she lamented for a little while and then built a fire pyre on top of the hill and placed the body of her husband on it. Hare Krishna.
So it's very interesting here. It says, Deham Vipana Akhila Chetana Adhikam. So Prabhupada actually explains that was Prithu actually dead? One way just by his, giving up the subtle body, giving up the gross body, the symptoms of life were no longer there. But actually her husband was not dead. He, because he had, it wasn't like the natural death. He had actually, used his Gyan and yoga to speed up, and the symptoms of life were gone. So she was completely aware that her husband was not dead, although the symptoms of life had actually all ceased. So having known that, then what she, and here, particularly the word is used, Prithviya Daitasya. This Prithu who was so merciful to the earth, right? So we read before how Prithu milked the earth, right? So who actually was, milked the earth, so merciful to the earth, and also merciful to his wife, right? Cha Atmanaha, merciful to the earth, and also this Prithu, seeing that there was no longer any symptoms of life, then Archie Vilapya, she lamented for a little while. Oh, my husband is not good. But then she said, oh, okay, I need to focus. What is my right duty right now? Chittam Aropyam Sanuni. She placed the body of her husband on fire. And this is, again, we make the point that yes, it is natural to feel that emotional state. But, devotees who are, those who are advanced, they actually don't let the emotions be hindrance to the right thing to do, right? That's the key point. In Bhagavad Gita, we see this point that Krishna is making. Don't let your emotions drive you back what to do. Let your spiritual intelligence be your guide, right? And that's what we see here in the case of Archie. Right? So Prabhupada here quotes Tehino Asmi Yata Dehe, right? The soul just transfers into another body, and one should dhiras tatra namuyate. One who is actually, who has this wisdom, he does not lament, right? Self-realized person is not bewildered by this change. Right? Okay, next verse, 22.
Vidhaya krityam radini jalaprutam datvodakam bhartur udara karmanaha natvadivistam tridasham triparitya viveshavanim dhyayati bhartripado.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji Mataji. After this, the queen executed the necessary funerary functions and offered oblations of water. After bathing in the river, she offered obeisances to various demigods situated in the sky in the different planetary systems. She then circumambulated the fire and, while thinking of the lotus feet of her husband, entered its flames. Hare Krishna.
So she put her husband's body on fire, and then here say executing all the regulative functions. Okay, I did this. Then she took her bath. Then offering oblations of water to her husband. Right. So now he's gone. So she did that part of offering water to the departed husband, and then Natwa. And if you see in this verse, it says three twice. Right, 3 and 3. So what is the first 3? Natva Tridashan. Tridashan means 30 million, right? That's actually how we say 30 crore, right? Devata. So 30 million demigods who had all assembled to see Prithu Maharaj's departure back home, back to Godhead. She offered obeisances to all those. Then 3 times so next 3 is what? 3 times she circumambulated her husband, and in Vivesha Rahim she entered into the fire only, and while doing this, while thinking of the lotus feet of her husband. So this is how Archie followed her husband. Right? She entered into the fire along with her husband, and see how she was like, offering obeisances to demigods, offering oblations of water, taking bath, all these things she did, and then circumambulated the husband, and always she was meditating on the lotus feet of husband, and then she actually entered into fire. So Prabhupada here actually says that this system of Sahagamana, the wife dying with the husband, is actually practiced from time immemorial. Now in Prithu and Archie, what are we talking? We are talking of like, Satya Yuga. So even in Satya Yuga, the system was there. It was only in Kali Yuga, when the wives were not strong enough, they were not spiritually minded to do this, and then they, see, like the Vedic system, like when we talk of like the Varnashram system, there's a proper system, but because it gets corrupted over time, then then there's all these faults in it. So it's same with this system, that that when the wives were not strong enough or spiritually minded, then they started like they were forced to enter, and this has happened in India. The wives were pushed into the fire, and that is like totally wrong, and hence the system was actually stopped. But the original system, where both husband and wife are spiritually pure, the husband is going back home, back to God, and the wife voluntarily wants to follow the husband, that is actually a system that has been followed since time immemorial. Prabhupada says even in 1940, he's saying, I personally knew a chaste wife who actually left in this way. Okay? So the system, the Vedic system, is actually perfect, but because of influence of Kali Yuga, because of influence of people who do not understand the purpose behind it, then the system gets corrupted. But we should not just deny the system because of the corruption, and we should try to understand what is the real purpose in the pure form of the system. Right? Okay, now text 23.
Vilokyanugatam sadvim pritum vira varam tushtur varada devar devapatnya sahasrashaha.
Hare Krishna. After observing this brave act performed by the chaste wife Archie, the wife of the great king Prithu, many thousands of wives of the demigods, along with their husbands, offered prayers to Queen, for they were very much satisfied. Hare Krishna.
So see how Archie has left, and here particularly the word is used, sadvim. Sadvim means a chaste woman, right? A chaste woman. So Vilokya, seeing how Archie has actually followed her, Anugataha. Anugata, we use the word Anu. Anu means to follow. How she has followed, this chaste woman has followed her husband Prithu, who is actually Veera Varam, the great warrior, right? Then the demigods, the wives of the demigods, Tushtuhu, they actually offered Varada. They gave so many benedictions, right? So it says Devai and Deva Patni. So the demigods gave so many benedictions, and Deva Patni, the wives of the demigods, they actually offered the prayers to the queen, which will read further. And Sahasra, there are thousands of demigods, all of them were actually offering benediction and praises to Prithu and his wife. Next verse.
Text 24. Kurvatya kursumasaram tasmin mandarasanuni nadat svamara turyeshu grinanti sma parasparam.
Hare Krishna. At that time, the demigods were situated on the top of Mandara hill, and all their wives began to shower flowers on the funeral pyre and began to talk amongst themselves as follows.
Right, so all the time demigods were situated on top of Mandara mountain, right? So they were seeing all this. They were actually seeing this whole how Prithu is performing austerities, how Archie has followed. They were seeing the whole thing, and now they saw, oh, so glorious their departure. Both of their departure is so glorious. They showered flowers, right? And it says Amara Tureshu. Amara Tureshu means beating of drums. Nadatsu, there was vibrations just from beating of drums, and they started talking amongst themselves about the glories. That is basically the next verse where it says Devya Uchu. Devya Uchu means the wives of demigods. Now they are praising. So let's read the next verse.
Devya uchuhu aho iyam vadurdhanya ya chaivam bhubujam patim sarvatmana patim bheje yageshwaram shir vadur iva.
Hare Krishna. 4:23-26. The wives of the demigods continued.
So,
Just see.
25, Mataji. 25.
Oh, I'm sorry. 4:23-25. The wives of the demigods said, all glories to Queen Archie. We can see that this queen of the great King Prithu, the emperor of all the kings of the world, has served her husband with mind, speech, and body, exactly as the goddess of fortune serves the supreme personality of Godhead, Yagnesha or Vishnu.
So the
Hare
wives
Krishna.
of demigods is praising Archie, right? Archie, like, oh, see how she's. So here it says, Aho. Aho means like, oh, just see, right? Who? I am this queen, this wife of the most glorious king, right? Bhu Bhujam Patim, right? So this most glorious king, just see his wife, and she served her husband Pati, the king of all kings. How did she serve? Sarva Atmana. Sarva Atmana means with body, with mind, with speech. She has served. Yagya Isham Shri Radhu Eva. Eva means just like how the goddess of fortune serves the supreme personality of God and Vishnu. Just like that, Archie has served her husband. So Prabhupada in the purport also gives the example of Rukmini. In Rukmini in Dwarka, in spite of having so many hundreds of maidservants, she personally used to serve her husband. Similarly, goddess of fortune is always engaged in service of Narayan. Right? So Prabhupada here glorifies. He says Vedic civilization, husband and wife actually should live together. Right? And then this whole, taking divorce and everything. He said this is like man-made laws. If husband and wife are trained from the starting of the life, how to practice Krishna consciousness. And if the entire Vedic system is followed, that they are trained from starting, and then how they are united by seeing, like how in the third canto we actually read about Kardamuni and Devahuti, that seeing the like-mindedness, that may include seeing the astrological charts, family traditions, all those. And then if they are brought together as husband and wife, and then together they are practicing Krishna consciousness, then where is the question of, divorce and everything? It is only because the Vedic system is not followed properly. Then, if you don't follow, then problems will be there, right? Training is not there. Who is the right match? That is not seen. All those problems are there. Then, naturally, there's problems, right? But Prabhupada says, ideally, Vedic civilization means husband and wife should live in Krishna consciousness, following the footsteps of Rukmini Krishna or Lakshmi Narayan, and only then there should be peace and harmony. So it's interesting that how Prabhupada, sometimes in our society also, like, they stress, oh, women should do this. But here see how Prabhupada is saying, both husband and wife should be trained properly. It is a duty of both of them together, right? Both of them together. Husband and wife should follow the example, right? So it's not that the husband is, not a devotee and the wife should be like Archie or, No, both of them have to follow. The husband is as glorious as Prithu, then the wife should be as glorious as Archie, right? So both sides should be there. 26.
Saisha nunam vrajet yurvam anuvainyam patim sati pashyatasman atityarshchir vidurvibhavyena karmana.
Hare Krishna. Translation. The wives of the demigods continued. Just see how this chaste Lady Archie, by dint of her inconceivable pious activities, is still following her husband upward, as far as we can see. Hare Krishna.
So it's interesting that how these demigods, wives of demigods, they were looking down on the earth planet where Prithu and Archie is, and now they are seeing that both of them in two vimanas are actually going up and up. Right? They are actually seeing. So Pashyata, they are seeing all this, that how Archie is following her husband, right? Urdhvam, going upward. Prabhupada talks about this, that Urdhvam, he explains in the purport, that, these wives of demigods were from planets like Moon, Sun, Venus, higher planetary system, even up to Brahmalok. And they are seeing down and they are seeing up. That, see, they are going. That means that they attain a state even beyond Brahmalok. And what is that? Vaikuntha, the spiritual reality. Right? So that's what Prithu and Archie actually attain. And here particularly the word says Sati, just see. Pashyati, just see. And Sati, chaste wife. She's so chaste that she's following her husband all the way back to Vaikuntha. Alright, and also that point is explained that the demigods' wives are thinking that, see, they have now achieved a position even glorious than our position. They are still there in the demigod, higher planetary systems. But see, Prithu and Archie, they are actually attaining the highest perfection beyond even what we have. So here, Prabhupada in the end, he says, if both husband and wife are pure devotees, woman does not need high qualification, but if she simply follows in the footsteps of her husband, and the husband must be a devotee, then both of them can achieve perfection. Right? So even though if the wife may not have high qualification, but if she's following a devotee husband, then she will attain the same perfection as the husband would attain. Okay, text 27.
Tesham durapam kim tvanyan martyanam bhagavat padam bhuvi lokayusho yevai naishkarmyam sadayant yuta.
In this material world, every human being has a short span of life, but those who are engaged in devotional service go back home, back to Godhead, for they are actually on the path of liberation. For such persons, there is nothing which is not available. Hare Krishna.
So basically here, why are they saying Tesham Durapam Kim? What is difficult for them to attain? Who? Anyat Martyanam Loka Ayusha. These human beings, how is their Ayusha? Very flickering, right? Compared to a demigod, the human life is just, our 100 years is nothing compared to the lifespan of demigods. It's a very short time. So demigods are looking down and say like, Prithu and Archie, they had so short lifetime compared to the lifespan of demigod. But see what is difficult for them to attain. Why? Because they expressed this Naishkarmya. They actually executed Naishkarmya. This word Naishkarmya refers to devotional service. And now they are attaining what? Bhagavad Padam, kingdom of God. So one way the wives of demigods are saying, oh, they are so fortunate. They are on the earth planet and just by doing bhakti in such a short time, they are attaining Bhagavad Padam. And we are still here. We are still here, stuck up in this higher planetary system. So even they are one way desiring to have that position of birth on the earth planet, where they can practice bhakti and go back home, back to God. So Prabhupada in the purport, he actually quotes Bhagavad Gita 9:33, Kim Punar Brahman Punya, and basically he focuses on Anityam Asukham Lokam. What is this material world? Anitya, not eternal, Asukham, full of miseries, Loka, Imam Prapya Bhajasya Ma. In spite of being in this place which is temporary and full of miseries, one can attain Krishna if one actually engages in devotional service. Right? So devotee constantly engage in service of the lotus feet of the Lord, achieve both material benefits and spiritual benefits. And what is the ultimate spiritual benefit? At the end, they go back to Krishna. All that can be attained by human beings in this flickering lifespan if we take a bhakti. Right? Now, this word Naishkamya, Achyuta Bhava Varjitam, if you remember in the first canto, 5th chapter, text number 12. So, Prabhupada quotes different verses to explain that how this Naishkamya, right, actually means transcendental knowledge, which means devotional service. Right? So, unless one comes to a platform of transcendental knowledge and renders bhakti, he is not perfect. Right? So, all the other process of Gyan, Yoga, Karma, right, executed life after life. You may have to do this again and again to come to the point of what? Pure devotional service. And that pure devotional service we can get only by the grace of pure devotee. Yes, so we are desiring the birth on the earth planet, but in the association of pure devotees, where we can get on the earth planet, having that association of pure devotees, we can practice Naishkamya and then attain the perfection. So one way the wives are repenting, oh, we are stuck up here for such a long lifespan, and there in short lifespan, they have attained perfection. Okay, so I think we'll stop here because we have a program. So that is so 27, 28. 4 verses is basically more verses that the wives of demigods will speak, and after that is the Falshruti of entire pastime of Prithu Maharaj. So this is the last section of Prithu Maharaj. So we'll read what is the Falshruti, what is the benefits one can attain by just meditating on the previous chapters all about Prithu's glory. So from text 31 to the end of the chapter 39 is all about the benefits of meditating on Prithu Maharaj and this pastime. Okay, so we'll stop here since we have the program. Any points that you liked or any questions from today's reading? Any points that anyone would like to share?
Prabhuji, I like the point that the summary is that we just have to follow the advice of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, how he has personally come us and show the path, and chant the Hare Krishna mantra. Hare Krishna.
Yes, thank you, Mataji. Thank you so much. So Prabhupada is making it so clear for us that we don't need to get bewildered. Oh, I don't know this. I have to now practice Astanga Yoga. I have to practice that. No need. Just chant Hare Krishna mantra. Thank you. Anything else?
I like the point how she didn't experience any difficulty because she was feeling so much pleasure from the service. When we perform devotional service, that the austerity becomes insignificant compared to the reciprocation that we feel.
Yeah, that's a very nice point. And so true to bhakti also. We have to do austerities, but if you say, oh, this is for the pleasure of my guru will be pleased. And as soon as there's a feeling of like that love with the Guru Maharaj, then you'll be like, okay, yeah, for my Guru. Like how a mother will take up so much austerities. Why? Just because she has so much love for the child. Right? She don't, think about twice that, oh, whether I should do this austerity or not. There'll be so much pain. No, it's just out of love. She's like, I love this child. For the child's benefit, I will perform this. I'll wake up whole night. I'll do this. That's the mood in bhakti. Right? Thank you. Any other points, anyone? Okay, so thank you all so much. So we'll end here. Grantra Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Vanchakalpatarubhyasya kripa sindhubhyevacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah. So next time we'll start with text number 27. We'll complete this chapter and move on to the next chapter, which is the next pastime after Prithu Maharaj. Right?
So, 28.
28, yeah, 28. Oh, so 28, 29, 30. So 3 more verses for what the queens are going to say. Right? 28 is actually a very nice verse. So we'll start with a very beautiful verse. Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much. We'll see you next Sunday at 7 a.m. with our next class. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Vanchakalpadurubhyasya kripa sindhubhyavcha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Thank you all so much. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much,
Thank you.
Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji, Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you so much.
Prabhuji, Hare
Thank
Krishna.
you. Hare Krishna. Thank you
Hare
for
Krishna,
joining.
Prabhuji. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.